Welcome to Action Hour. I'm your host, Lindsey Baker. Today my guest is Rick Scott, who is not only an athlete, but a distinguished peak performance coach recognized for his ability to unlock the potential within individuals. Rick can help you take your game and life to the next level via fitness, nutrition, and mindset training. Rick is also a dedicated animal rights activist and director of Rick Scott Productions. Rick, we are living in very trying times. And I know a big part of your peak performance coaching is about mental health. And so that's one of the things I want to talk about. I want to jump in with a question about a concept you have of MVP. Can you explain? Your version's a little different. Can you explain what that is?
Right, because everybody talks about MVP as being most valuable player, and especially since I'm an athlete, they're like, oh, definitely it is about being a most valuable player. But no, MVP stands for meditation, visualization, and prayer. And those three are part of my morning routine. I have a very extensive morning routine, which incorporates all three of those: meditation, visualization, and prayer.
I think we have a little video where you talk about it. Let's play it, and then you'll talk us through.
Before the day claims me, and it will, I have an MVP morning: meditation, visualization, and prayer. Meditation helps me calm my constantly busy mind. We process close to 100,000 thoughts per day. Focusing the mind in meditation quiets the incessant and relentless thoughts that allows me to experience and feel peace before the day becomes relentless in its pace. Visualizing my day, the things that I plan to accomplish and the goals that I set for the day, prepares me. Every action begins first with a thought, so I see it first in my mind before taking action. Negative thoughts and images frequently burst in, attempting to rob me of my positive intentions and steal my momentum, so I fight back with proactive visualization. Prayer is my way of tuning in with my higher self. You don't have to be spiritual to pray. Just talk to your inner self. Set your intentions for the day. Positively affirm your goals and dial in the actions you're going to take to achieve them. Then give thanks for at least three things. Thank yourself for showing up, giving yourself this time, and for taking in uncomfortable actions to grow. This is what an MVP morning looks like. Meditate, visualize, and pray.
Wow, what an amazing concept. Can you go into that a little deeper, particularly the part where you talk about everyone has the intention and then the negative thoughts come in and destroy your whole thing? So
yeah, so many people, you started by saying we're living in difficult times, and it's very normal to experience stress, anxiety, fear, worry. Doubt is a big thing for a lot of people. They start doubting themselves, and it's very easy. It doesn't matter. Everybody can start off with great positive intentions, great things that they want to do and accomplish or whatever else, and then they start to doubt. The doubt starts to creep in. They start hearing these other things, and it's very easy to get thrown off track for that. So what I like to do is to start stacking some positive emotions, some positive feelings, positive experiences, basically kind of relive certain moments each day to remind myself who I am, what I'm about, what I'm capable of. Taking moments that, say, for instance, that you're proud of, thinking about and visualizing that whole experience all over again, reliving that moment that you are proud, that filled you with pride. Maybe taking a moment that you feel grateful, something that fills you with feelings of gratitude. Instead of fear, anxiety, nervousness, worry, I start filling myself with feelings of gratitude. What can I be thankful for? What do I appreciate? What fills me with love? What fills me with laughter? Reliving and feeling those moments, and then carrying that out as I begin my days.
Yes, I am a bit of a spiritual person myself, and I believe that works completely. But as you said, you don't even have to come from a spiritual background or belief system. It just makes sense that if your mind is full of worry and doubt and anger, you are working against yourself. And even physiologically, I understand, you're creating a situation in your body where your body is working against itself.
For sure. Think about it. If you were to picture yourself happy, strong, powerful, healthy, what's your posture look like? I mean, I think anybody would know your chest is up, your head is up, you're confident, right? Now picture somebody who's sad and depressed. What's their body language look like?
They're more squinched.
Right. Exactly. So it's the same thing. It manifests itself that way. So it's like when you walk into a room, how do you walk into that room? Do you walk in kind of timid? What's your body language like? How are you carrying yourself? How do you move through the body, through that room? And I mean, all those things come into play.
That's very true. I agree with that. I even find I have a back strap that when I wear it, it holds my shoulders back. My whole attitude changes. I think it's something physiological, correct?
There is. And I'm not a master of the science, but I will tell you this, Lindsey. There's a study that was done, the Superman posture. I can't stand up and do it, but you stand up like as if you're with a cape, whether you're Superman or Wonder Woman or whatever else. But if you stand and you hold in this posture, first of all, you have to hold it for 2 minutes, but your testosterone immediately changes. And you start getting, you start decreasing your cortisol, you start increasing your serotonin, your feel good, your focus, all starts to improve just by standing like this for 2 minutes. It's just amazing that your physiology can have that much impact on everything that we do.
That is so true. I want to go through from the beginning. I know that you have so much to share in terms of all the things you do, but you, in your early days, when you were 14, you were aspiring to be a hockey player. Take us back to your beginning, and then maybe even tell us how veganism came into play, etc.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. This body is 59 years old. And so I say I've got 45 years as a committed athlete. I remember specifically training for my first year of high school hockey. I was 14 years old. I'm considerably smaller than everybody else to this day. I weigh less than most average hockey players. Most of the guys who I skate with regularly, have an average of 6 inches taller than me, 80 pounds more than me, and are usually 20, 30, or 40 years younger than me. Okay. And
I love it.
Why they can't keep up with me. And it's how I eat, how I train, how I live. And that, to me, Lindsey, is how I define being an athlete. At 14 years old, I remember I was lifting weights. I remember the moment very clearly in my room. And I remember thinking, like, I can be a hockey player or I can be an athlete. And I define being an athlete as just the whole aspect. It's an entire lifestyle. Much like when we talk about veganism being a lifestyle, you can, plant-based is how you eat, but vegan is making sure that your wallet is, and your belt and your shoes or whatever else, and no animal products, period. So I say the same thing about being an athlete, that it was going to impact how I eat, how I sleep, how I train, how I recover, how I think. So all those things go into that decision. So there you go. I'm not able to hear you, Lindsey, if you're still there.
Maybe we can go through a few of these next. I know that from being an athlete, you learn certain things. And what was the next step? Let's go there first. What was the next step?
Well, I guess we could talk about how the nutrition came in. So, I grew up in a typical sad home, right? Standard American diet, a lot of meat and potatoes for sure. And I became an endurance athlete. I was a hockey player from the time I was 14, and then I went to college, and again, a lot smaller. So I started to ride a bike to train. There's a lot of crossover. A lot of pro cyclists are also Olympic speed skaters. And if you watch the Olympics and you see a lot of Olympic speed skaters, many of them are also pro cyclists. So because just to get stronger on my skates, I started to ride a bike. And as an endurance athlete, I was eating a lot of pasta and vegetables every day. And I realized I wasn't eating meat and I didn't miss it. And so I very naturally decided, okay, I'm now vegetarian. And I did that for 25 years. Somewhere early on along the way, I tried to go vegan because I learned what was in milk, all the blood, pus, and urine in dairy. And so I got rid of milk at that time. But I did go back and continue to eat some dairy products, like some cheese and some yogurt and eggs for another bunch of years. Until 9 years ago, when I just had that light switch moment, a combination of things where I went from being vegan to, or from vegetarian after 25 years to vegan. I am definitely 100% vegan for the animals. And that's when I learned what factory farming was. And once I learned what factory farming was and what that involved, I could not turn away.
Well, that's an amazing story. I wanted to talk about a couple of these articles, and then we'll go on and talk about your work in the PR business. So let's see here. Let's back to switch for good for a moment here. Do you remember, can you tell us a little about this article you wrote about how drinking milk affects an athlete and the inflammation, foods to avoid? Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
In dairy products, period, I recommend that people avoid. If it's not for the blood, pus, and urine that's in it, it's the fact that that's milk that was made for a baby cow to make a baby cow grow as fast as it can within its first 6 months of life into a 600-pound animal. It's not meant for human consumption. It never was intended. If it's not your mother, it's not your milk. We've all heard that. And that could never be more true in the dairy sense. It's interesting. It's like if you were to ask an adult if they would want some, glass of breast milk or whatever, they would say, no way. But yet they'll drink a glass of breast milk from another species. I mean, we're the only species that consumes breast milk from another animal. I mean, it just makes no sense. If anybody ever gave it some thought and some logic, it makes no sense whatsoever. I didn't think that I had any lactose intolerant issues, but 67% of the human population does have lactose intolerance issues or a dairy allergy. That number is much higher when you get to people, ethnic groups, Latin, Black, Asian, Native American, can be up to 95% lactose intolerance. Most white people, it's only like around 33 or 36% or whatever. I didn't think that I had any problems until I gave up milk. And we all watched the commercial. We all saw those commercials, and especially they were advertised in sports magazines, some of which I used to read, where, drink chocolate milk for recovery after a workout. And I make a big, massive smoothie every day. But years ago, when I was still a cyclist, I would go on a training camp route, in a 4-day training camp with my cycling team. And I didn't travel with a blender, right? So I would go to a convenience store or whatever, and I would pick up a quart of chocolate milk. And within hours, I'll spare the gory details, but my stomach was bad. We can leave it at that. Yeah. And I never thought I had any lactose intolerance issues or whatever until I was like, oh, why am I having problems? Well, because I can't digest it, apparently. So there you go.
Yeah. And I just want to go through each of these a little bit. And the next one was about vitamin D. Is not a vitamin.
But vitamin D is actually a hormone that can get activated through the sun. Like people say, like, how do you get vitamin D from the sun? The sun actually stimulates the production of the hormone in our body. Any product that anybody eats, if you take milk or cereal or anything like that, vitamin D is not really found naturally in them. It's definitely not in cow's milk. I can tell you that. It's fortified. Cow's milk is fortified with vitamin D, just like if you buy soy milk or any other plant-based milk, it's fortified with vitamin D. So you don't necessarily have, because people think, oh, I got to get vitamin D from, no, you don't. No, you don't. You don't get it because those products don't even naturally contain it. It's fortified.
Well, do you think that athletes, they're trying to build their bulk? I know when they train, they eat a lot of eggs and drink a lot of milk and they'll eat really heavy foods like that. Um, do you think that there's any way to convince them? I mean, how do you convince them that, they're afraid? I mean, they're afraid to lose the weight too, isn't it? Isn't that true? I mean, because that would
Correct.
mean the bulk would go away. How do you convince them, and how do you tell them to train if it's
How do
not too
I convince them? Well, first of all, I recommend that people watch Game Changers, right? I mean, watch the Game
Yes.
Changers documentary for sure, and they're going to learn some things. But you're going to see a whole lot of very big muscular people, bodybuilders, professional bodybuilders, whether it's Nimai Delgado or even our friend Robert Cheek, who has written an author or has written books, best-selling books on being a plant-based athlete and being vegan strong and whatever else. So the information is out there, and so for me, my turning point moment, like when I referenced after going from vegetarian to vegan, part of that involved our dear friend Dotsie Bausch, an Olympic silver medaling cyclist who created Switch for Good nonprofit. Dotsie was my first my first sports client in PR 21 years ago. And she gave a TED Talk. And that's why I said, like, my light switch moment was, one, I learned about what factory farming was. Two, Dotsie's role in that was she was preparing to give a TED Talk. And I watched that TED Talk. Dotsie at the time was weighing 135 pounds, same weight as me. And she was talking about the amount of protein that she was getting during that training. Because for me, I didn't count calories or fat or whatever. I knew, like, I was getting enough to train or whatever. But marketing gets driven into people's head that they need a certain amount of protein to build muscle. As long as you're getting enough calories, you're going to build all the muscle you need. You're going to get all the protein that you need. And for me, it was like hearing Dotsie's story, because for me, I was like, okay, the proverbial wisdom that's out there in the athletic community is that you need at least 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So I would try to get about 130 grams of protein per day. And now I probably get about 80 to 90. I don't
build
count.
muscle, you don't need as much.
As long as you're getting enough calories, you're probably getting enough protein.
Okay.
So I make sure I get enough calories. And as I said, like for me, when I switched, when I went from vegetarian to vegan and learning about the amount of protein that you really need, Dotsie did it on about 65 or 75 grams of protein per day. So half of what the conventional wisdom was at the time. And she won a silver medal in the Olympics. So hey, how much proof do you need?
That sounds like a pretty good proof to me. Okay, so I think the other story that we did touch on with dairy, one last thing, healing arthritis by ditching dairy. Can you just touch on that a moment?
Yeah, that's my little miracle, and I can't promise this is going to happen to everybody.
Of course, this is
but
not a medical advice.
My story, my unexpected win. So I broke my wrist twice. Once as a bicycle racer, first time as a hockey player. First time I broke it, I was 18 years old. And then when I broke it in 2007, the first thing the orthopedic does is he throws the x-ray up on the screen and he's like, oh my God, look at all that arthritis. That was the first thing he said. Now, I knew my wrist hurt, and I knew that I had to tape my wrist to lift in the gym, and I knew how sore it felt. But to hear a doctor say, oh my God, look at all that arthritis. So again, I was a hockey player. I became a bicycle racer for 23 years, and I broke my body enough times where I said, I'm going to go back and I'm going to go to hockey, which I know people laugh at, thinking that how safe. Hockey is a very dangerous sport and everything too, but at least I'm not going to get run over by a car. Number one. Number two, I'm not going to break my body every time I hit the pavement in my underwear, essentially. Right. I mean, so I go back to hockey. At the time, I'm wearing a brace on my wrist every day. I'm taping my wrist in the gym. And that's right at the same time that I decided to say, that's it. I'm done. No more animal products. So I got rid of dairy. And I wasn't drinking it, but I was consuming some cheese, some eggs, some yogurt. And all of a sudden, good to go. Within months, I'm no longer wrapping. I'm no longer wearing a brace on my wrist. My wrist no longer hurts. I'm no longer taping it. Now I don't feel a difference between either one, even though I broke the right one twice, and many years ago. And again, doctor commented about all the arthritis. I don't feel anything. There's no difference between my wrists. All went away once I got rid of dairy products.
I think people should really take heed to this, because it really, I mean, from the teenager who goes through puberty with, acne, and not only scars their skin, it scars their whole, memory of of that part of their life, which should be a lot of fun. And it can be so easily remedied. And then as we get older, it starts to affect our bodies, and with all the like arthritis, et cetera, all the things you're talking about being affected by autoimmune, right? Our body is saying this is not right. These growth hormones are not meant for us. And it's just crazy. I do want to move on now, though, to the next subject. I want to talk a little bit. I want to talk about your activism. I also want to talk about your career in PR. So maybe you can just kind of tell us about your career in PR, and then how we'll talk about how you brought that into your activism.
Okay, excellent. So yes, I am in PR, public relations, music, sports, entertainment, health and wellness products, and compassionate causes, specifically animal rights. And I've been doing it for decades, and work with, I'm proud to say that I work with a number of Hall of Famers, like Earth, Wind, and Fire, for instance. A number of Grammy winners, like a ton of Grammy winners, a lot of Billboard chart toppers. I mean, I work with I'm regarded as one of the top jazz publicists in the country. I've kind of specialized in that genre of music, but I'm everywhere, really, musically. Thank you for putting up the graphic, greatscottpr.com. And I know it sounds cliche, but I don't have any kids. And in 2017, a lot of the industries that I had been working in started going through a downturn. And I had that proverbial moment, was like, if I'm going to reinvent myself, I want my work to matter. I want my life to matter. I want to have impact. And I was already vegan at that time, and long time vegetarian or whatever, and had the opportunity to help Dotsie launch her first nonprofit, which was called Compassion Champs. And then it became, then she created Switch for Good a year later in 2018. So that's kind of how I started. My mindset became, instead of building people's egos through PR, right? I mean, it's essentially you're building people's egos, right? It was like, I want to have impact. I want to use my creative talents and my ability to get the word out, and media and activism, whatever else. And I know that I'm a great writer. So and a storyteller, if you can't tell by this interview, definitely a storyteller. And I was like, okay, I want to use these skills to affect change. I want to create, impact, I want to inform, educate, inspire, and uplift people, animals, and our planet. So that's what it's all about.
Wow, that's like such a great goal, and the fact that you can do it, that you're successful enough to figure out, maneuver a way to do it. Can you give people some advice? Let's go back to the coaching part of it, and maybe we can help people a little bit here. There's a lot of people that say, oh, I would love to do that, Rick. I would love to pursue my passion, but I just don't know how to do it right now. So when someone comes to you, what do you tell them? How do you get started with someone?
Well, people come to me as a peak performance coach. People come to me a lot of different things, and right. I'll kind of try to wrap it all together for you. Okay. I do work with a lot of athletes. They're not just hockey players, but athletes, period. Somebody who's running a half marathon is somebody who I coach for. They were running their first half marathon back in February. Maybe it's somebody who just wants to gain weight, muscle. So I work with a lot of athletes, and their needs are going to be different than somebody else. For instance, right now I'm coaching Lindsey. I thought I was in way over my head, and she might see this interview. So I'm going to leave her name out of it, but stage 4 cancer. She's stage 4 cancer. This is her second battle. She's completely riddled with it. It started in her bladder. It's in her bones. It's in her lungs. She's a growth coming out that shattered her collarbone. I mean, it's horrible. And when she contacted me, I was like, I'm in over my head. this is how can I help somebody who's in bed? I help people to move. I get people to move their body and take action or whatever. I work with people on their mindset, on their nutrition, on their fitness. But I was like, I can't help her with her fitness. What am I going to do? And then she melts my heart. She tells me that she has a 1 pound dumbbell. I didn't even know they make 1 pound dumbbells, but she has a 1 pound dumbbell, and she lays in bed and she moves her body whenever and however she can. And obviously I can help her with her nutrition because she's not plant-based. So I can help her with her nutrition. You and I both know that cancer is created through chronic inflammation, often caused by our diets. And so I can work with her there. I could obviously work with her on her mindset, make sure that she's strong in her mind and is ready and willing to fight this. So as far as like people are going to come to me with a different thing,
Right.
Passion itself, I could tell you, like I always say, that I am grateful to live and work my passions 24/7, and that I don't know any other way to live. So, I mean, tune in your heart.
Affirmations too, it goes into your subconscious.
Yeah, well, affirmations for sure. But passion is how I live my life, and if I'm not passionate about it, I don't get involved. So, I'm grateful to live a life of passion, and that's what I just encourage people to do. And how to get started? Just take an action. Start small, chalk up some wins, build some momentum, be consistent, and then you can start to then take on bigger things from there.
I had someone ask me to ask a question, and I think so I'm going to do that. It's someone that worked out in the past and then went through sort of a traumatic accident, a health crisis. And then when they came back, they began to work out again. I think they went through some mental, depression because it changed their whole life, what happened financially in every way, marriage-wise, etc. And they said they had gained a lot of weight. They're trying to get back. And they can't find that. They feel like something's stopping them from getting that motive, that fire when they worked out before. Is there any advice you could give to someone like that?
Well, do they enjoy training?
Apparently, what they said, yes, they were into it. It wasn't like me. My whole life, I do it because I want to, I want to have certain. Before it was looks, now it's health.
Right.
I want to make sure that I stay healthy. When I was younger, I was worried about, other things, frivolous things, I guess. Yeah. But so this is somebody that likes to work out, but can't get the fire under them. They also have some other things going, that maybe situations in their life not exactly where they want to be in life in certain ways because of the situation. That still is probably affecting them. You know what I mean?
Connected. There are 3 things that I always recommend as far as like if you want to change somebody's mental state of being or whatever, you want to change your mood. First thing you can do is move your body. Changing your body, moving your body, changing your physiology. That just creates a lot of energy. There are days, not that I don't want to skate, but there are days when because I'm training 7 days a week, oftentimes twice a day, and I know that's a lot for people, so I try to not put that out there to the world to intimidate people. But there are times where it's like, oh, I don't necessarily feel like this or whatever else. But like as soon as you start to build some momentum. The other night, I had a really, really long work day, and I wasn't able to get to the gym until 10:15 at night. I didn't get out of there until 12:15 at night. But I started, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna start. I'm gonna do this certain portion or whatever else, and then you start to build momentum, and then I just keep going. And before I know it, I'm doing the whole thing, and it gets done that way. So I always say, like, start. You got to show up. The first thing is you got to show up. Second thing is just get started. Start small, as I said. Just start small and start moving your body. Change your physiology. To your friends' particular crisis and different things that they might be struggling with or whatever else, I start to say, or I recommend that you start thinking about the actions that you can take, the positive things that you can do to change your situation. Don't lament and think about the things that are wrong or broken or whatever, things that you can't change. Start thinking of solutions. Start thinking of the actions that you can take. And then the third thing would be, you just were touching on it a minute ago, and that's like affirmations. Start thinking of the language. What are the things that you're saying to yourself? Are you telling yourself you can do this, or are you telling yourself you can't? Right? Whether you're wrong, whether you say you can, or whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. Right? I mean, we've all heard that before. So start thinking about the language and change the language. Use empowering language. Power yourself up. I have a ton of affirmations that I use and I recite all the time. As soon as I get in the car, like as I'm driving to the rink, I'm already starting to run through. There's a certain poem, an inspiring poem to me that I say that out loud every day. People in other cars must think I'm nuts, right? But I'm like, really putting myself into it, and using my body language, really just cranking up the energy, and that gets you going. I mean, I'm all about energy and passion or whatever, and it takes, if you want high results in your life, you got to have a lot of energy. So it's how you eat, how you train, how you sleep, recover, whatever else, and use all that. Use all that to propel yourself forward. I can't hear you.
It's like you should sing and dance, right? You got to move.
Yes, exactly. Like sometimes if you think about it, like if you're struggling with something and if put on Pharrell Williams Happy, or actually I remember seeing you dancing around to Miley Cyrus Flowers or whatever one day, right? I remember that video on TikTok or whatever. And it's like, put on a song like that and start dancing, whatever. Your whole mindset will change. Your whole energy will change. And now all of a sudden your whole day will change, just as a result of that.
Yeah, I just want to jump in real quick and tell Tom Vincel. No, Tom, this is just a special broadcast. A couple nights now I've come on, but my time is still the same. I still come on Saturdays at 10. Thank you for asking. And I did want to go back to another question. We didn't cover any of your activism yet, but I wanted to go into one more thing here that you have. You have the stadium, the pro stadium. You brought now tell us, are these people you work with in coaching that you brought to a pro stadium to work out? I have a little video. Let's watch the video and then you can talk. That's all good. Let us play.
You just ended it with me. That was me. That was my shot. That was that last clip. That last scene that we just saw was me shooting. And then the very next one is actually me scoring. So yeah.
Oh, sorry, I cut off.
We did that last month actually for the fourth time. I rented out the ice at crypto.com arena, formerly known as Staples Center, where the LA Kings play. And I brought my elite group. I built a large community of peak performance athletes. And this is, my hockey players or whatever. And we played a game there. There was one of the years where Switch for Good provided products for the winning team, and so did Miyoko's. This year, I just brought in a bunch of sponsors or whatever else, all of which, of course, are plant-based. So yeah, that was freaking awesome. So the activism that you asked about, so it started again with Dotsie and Switch for Good, and I had been invited to be a panelist on one of the Veg Fests that Dotsie was holding a panel for as a vegan athlete. And our dear friend Jane Velez Mitchell invited me to be a guest on Lunch Break Live. And I'm sitting there, and they start talking about pig vigils, which I had heard about. And I was like, oh, there's no way in the world I will go to that. I will not be able to stand that. And, but they kind of challenged me to go. And I went. I lived up to my promise because the next weekend it was going to be Mother's Day. And I'm the type who's like, I'm an all in or I'm on all out. So literally on the same day, I went to a pig vigil and a cow vigil in the same day.
Wow.
And got my first taste of both of them. And I actually wrote about my cow vigil experience, which I think that column that I wrote probably still lives on Unchained Live, on Unchained TV's website or whatever. You could probably see it there.
Yeah, I'm going to link a few of the links you gave me into the description for this. If people want to see, go to the articles. We'll refer them back.
That would be great. Yeah. So the activism kind of started there, and I was writing columns for Switch for Good, and that was published on Unchained, now Unchained TV, and Vegan Magazine also published my columns. And I would interview an expert, whether it was a doctor or a nutritionist, about just various myths that are floating around about athletes that, that you can't get enough protein, or where you're going to get your vitamin D, or what are omega-3s and whatever else. And so I kind of like debunk a lot of myths on that you can be a highly competitive athlete and still get everything you need on a plant-powered diet. So it began there. And then I got hired by National Animal Rights Day as a PR person, which was super fun. And then $1 Million Vegan, and obviously Switch for Good, and also In Defense of Animals. I was proud to do some work with them earlier this year. We helped get the dog meat trade banned in South Korea.
Wow, congrats.
Thank you. And then we
Tell
were
us a little bit about the campaign quickly, because what I'm sure my viewers would like to know, like, what is, as far as your end of the work, what would that entail?
Yeah, I came in at the end. It was amazing. It was, they knew it was going to be going to a vote soon, and then what's called the National Assembly, i.e. like Congress in South Korea. And so right around Christmas, New Year's, they knew it was coming up soon. So they brought me in. They said, we want a month push really PR wise to get the word out. So what it involved, my work was just writing and distributing a press release, telling the story on where things were and how close we were to enacting cultural change in South Korea, and then what that would mean for these dogs and everything like that. So I helped get that story out there. It came to a vote and it passed, and it's a 3-year phase out. But I'm now part of the anti-dog meat trade, and so we're now focusing on, and we're learning about other, because there are a lot of, I think it's 15 or 16 other countries that are still eating dogs and cats and whatever else. So I'm getting involved. We're trying to figure out like who's going to be our next target. China is really, really large and would be difficult to really do that. So it might be somewhere smaller, like Vietnam first. Again, chalk up some wins. It's the same philosophy. Chalk up some wins, and then you carry that momentum forward. So that might be how that works there. The other thing that I got involved with In Defense of Animals earlier this year was they publish a list every year of the 10 worst zoos in America for elephants, especially bull elephants, male elephants. And so they published that list, and we helped get that word out. And the worst zoo in America is the Los Angeles Zoo. So they were going to do an event there that day, and I was able to get the media out to that, and we got coverage in Los Angeles Magazine and local CBS affiliate, all on that, on how these elephants are living and treated.
Yeah, we want to just say that we don't like to call out any particular company or business. And we invite the LA Zoo on any time on Unchained TV to tell their part of the story. So we just want to add that in there. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Of course.
Let me see where I didn't mean to throw you there, but we just have to get that in there. So what did we leave out? We're just about to the end of our time, Rick. Is there anything that we left out that you feel it's important that we share?
I don't think so. I mean, this is a really comprehensive.
How do people get in touch? with
People
you?
can find me very easily. My handle on TikTok, which is the I'm least active on, is vegan hockey player. That one's easy. My hockey number is 16. So Rick Scott 16 is where you can find me on Instagram. And I do respond to messages there. On Facebook is rick.scott. I'm not the guy in Florida who's a senator, former governor, because sometimes people like to yell at me and tag me on things. I'm not that guy.
Oh,
I'm the vegan hockey player, Rick Scott. I'm not the politician. So yeah, Rick.Scott on Facebook, Rick Scott 16 on Instagram, and then at vegan hockey player on TikTok.
We'll add those in as well. We'll add the links in that we told people we would add in. It's been a pleasure having you on, and I hope you'll come back again and talk to us, and maybe come to my big kitchen here in LA and cook us some food. One more
you would do that, because I'm not necessarily the chef there. But if you had said, "Hey, maybe you want to work out with me sometime," I would.
Oh, work out? Yeah, that'd be great. That would be great. Okay.
Thank you for having me, Lindsey.
You are welcome, and thank you for being on. We'll keep in touch. Guys, please share this out. And remember, download the app Unchained TV. Spread the word. Let me show you the banner one more time here. Boop, boop, boo. Unchained TV. Download the free streaming app that brings you programming like this and wonderful people like Rick Scott, who's helping change the world. So we will see you next time. Thanks everyone for watching, and please share this out.